What Americans don't understand about Europe. Well, if you're talking about the average American,
Pin at the Mona Lisa.
Buddha?
Probably close to nothing. We don't really get much information about Europe, but curious to see what this woman is going to be talking about. This video had quite a bit of views on it, and it just came out about a month ago. And yeah, it kind of piqued my interest. I just typed in European videos, and this seemed like a big hit. So let's see if she can enlighten me and help me understand a little bit more about Europe. And I'm assuming it might have something to do with what's currently going on in the world, but let's see. Without further ado, let's hop in.
I've noticed an increasingly negative attitude of US Americans to Europeans, and the other way around.
I'm stopping it like 4 seconds in. I mean, I don't know anyone personally that has negative attitudes towards Europeans. And she said the other way around, which I have been experiencing that since I've started posting videos on YouTube. But other than that, you know, I'm sure there probably is some. Everyone seems to be much louder on social media, so probably what she's referencing.
It makes me sad because I think there's much to admire in both America and Europe. So today I want to talk a little about what I think is going on and what we have in common and what not. A lot of the US-European kerfuffle is friendly, and you find it in memes like the European mind.
I have seen these memes. They're kind of stupid. It's dumb.
Mind can't comprehend this, posted by Americans, featuring SUVs, highway junctions, or oversized meals and drinks. In return, we have the retaliation. The American mind can't comprehend this, with the metric system, walls of public bathroom stalls that have gaps at the bottom, and garbage separation. Speaking of garbage, in case you missed it, 2 months ago, New York City introduced garbage bins. My European mind can't comprehend this. Of course, the American-European
New York just introduced garbage bins? I didn't even hear about that. I've had garbage bins my entire life. Lived in California, now I live in Tennessee. I got 3 of them, so I don't know. Maybe I guess it's a New York thing. If it's like a tight city square, they didn't really have room for garbage bins everywhere, and they're just introducing them. But yeah, anyway.
Isn't a new thing. Georges Clemenceau, who was Prime Minister of France more than a century ago, said, "America is the only nation in history which miraculously has gone directly from barbarism to degeneration without the usual interval of civilization." According to the Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw, the 100% American is 99% idiot. And Winston Churchill allegedly said that Americans can always be trusted to do the right thing once all other possibilities have been exhausted.
You know, gosh, I don't want to make this channel anything political. So I won't go too deep into the weeds of it, but like what you see from like what's going on in the governments and like the way our political system is set up, you know, it's so dumb. Like the way it's divide and conquer, it's basically having a 50-50 split on everything and constantly butting heads, like fighting each other. That's essentially how the government keeps control, because we're always like hating the other side if you are on a side, which I'm not. But yeah, it's just dumb.
Americans haven't been any friendlier to Europeans. The American comedian Jackie Mason quipped that England is the only country in the world where the food is more dangerous than the sex. Bette Midler declared that when it's 3 o'clock in New York, it's still 1938 in London. The American author and journalist P.J. O'Rourke said that you can always reason with a German. You can always reason with a barnyard animal too, for all the good it does. All good fun.
All good fun. I mean, most of those were comedians. I guess that last guy was a journalist. That was kind of effed up if he's just being serious, not making like a cheeky joke, but the other ones are somewhat, you know, comedians.
But we also have many Europeans who think Americans are just stupid to accept living in the conditions that they do. That judgment has become especially pronounced since the first Trump presidency. And I'm laughing at Trump supporters. People that stupid shouldn't be allowed to vote. That's a quote from a young Dutch person. I can tell you from my own experience that among the Europeans I know, This attitude is extremely common. You don't have to take my word for it, because by the blessing that's YouTube, we have footage of a young American who asked Europeans what they think of Americans.
Are you also German?
Yes, I am.
And in Germany, you feel like German people have a positive view of Americans? Or
Not really.
no?
I think
Okay, so more negative.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you feel?
Let's be honest, nobody has a positive view of Americans. Or, and I hate that. It's like you have a negative view on America, the country, which then comes down to Americans, and then we take on that, like, negative view. So it's kind of a disservice to us, because, like, most of us are just living our lives. Like, I spend time with my wife and my kids and my family and my friends, and I eat food and go visit places. Like, I'm not out, fucking the world up. Like,
That there's been a change at all in terms of how Americans are viewed, like in the last 10, 15 years?
I think so, yes. Especially due to the Trump and the Tea
Yeah.
Party things happening. It got more polarized, and that made it more negative in my view.
This is from before the
so it's basically Trump, right? Like, Trump over the last, like, whatever it's been, 12 years, has put on this negative view to the world about all of America, or all Americans, which it's like only 35% of the entire country voted for Trump, but yet somehow it gets put on to all of us. And, Trump is essentially just it's a reaction to some of the things that were happening in our country, some rights that were being infringed on, kind of being pushed down. People just really got fed up, and, like, they looked at Trump as someone that they could put a vote to that would basically stop all of it and make Americans a little bit more prideful. And it seems like that's what the guy's doing now. Again, I'm not trying, I didn't vote in the last election, so don't come at me with, like, anything crazy, but essentially that I feel like that's what it is.
recent US election, but I don't think the situation has much improved since. In return, many Americans likewise think Europeans are stupid to accept living in the conditions that they do. An opinion that seems to be mostly based on the economic superiority of the United States, or the higher income you can make in some professions, or the high taxes we pay in Europe. I encounter this attitude on X, Twitter, all the time. The reason this makes
Pause. I gotta tell the kids to be quiet. Hold on. Sorry about that. My daughters were, and it's not over. Holy cow.
me unhappy is that it presumes people in other countries must share our values. I've lived for some years in the United States, and I believe that Americans just have different values than Europeans. We each have a different idea of what makes for a good life, and it makes no sense that we try to impose our values on each other. Have a look at this podium.
I can appreciate that. That's a good take on it. I really like that.
Discussion. Can you spot the American among the Swedes? Somewhat more seriously, many Americans, for example, think of freedom as individual autonomy, guns being left alone by the government, and being able to say what they want without limitations. This is why they're skeptical of the idea to make health insurance mandatory, don't think much of social welfare programs, and constantly complain about censorship. They've grown up learning that if you want to be successful, you need to take risks. They've grown up learning that failure is a normal part of life and an opportunity to learn. They've grown up learning to value independence. Europeans, on the other hand, are more likely to associate freedom with social security. They want to be free to pursue their interests without having to worry about, say, being indebted for the rest of their life because they wanted to study physics, having to ask for donations to pay their cancer treatment, or getting shot at the mall. In Europe, we tend to see universal healthcare, tuition-free education, and unemployment benefits as the basis of individual liberty. We accept higher taxes and regulations as protections from systemic risks like poverty or illness.
I'm going to pause it there really quick. I'm kind of curious if you guys could let me know in the comments how your universal healthcare actually is. I mean, we get wins of obviously, having healthcare for everyone in the world. I wish that it could happen. I wish that it was free, wish nobody had to pay for it. Realistically, somebody always does have to pay for it. That's usually what the higher tax rates that you guys have come from. Not saying that the system that we have is better, but I will say that, you know, when I was a kid back in the 90s, between my parents and my family there were 6 of us, the cost for healthcare was like very minimal. It was very, very small. Healthcare didn't become extremely expensive until Obama was elected president and implemented the policies, which is like Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare, all of that, like increased all of that, which then caused insurance to skyrocket and be a lot more. But even today, like, it's not as crazy as it has been before. It's gone down a lot, but yeah, I'm really curious what you guys think. Like, are you happy with just paying more taxes and having your healthcare just taken care of? And is it good? Do you have to wait like a month to get an appointment, or like a couple of months, or does it work really well? I'm genuinely, truthfully curious. So let me know.
And most of us agree that one person's free speech ends when it endangers another person's safety or dignity. We've grown up learning that bad fortune can hit anyone. We've grown up learning that we're stronger together. We've grown up learning to think before acting. Yes, these are terrible stereotypes, and I apologize profoundly to all Americans and Europeans who feel misrepresented, which will be all of you, I guess. Because I think we all have some sympathy for both perspectives. Like, just among you and I agree that our taxes are too high. But by my own experience, I think that on average, these stereotypes are largely true. I believe that our different values go back to our different historical trajectories. The USA was built by rebels who fled from tyranny. Then they ended up in the awkward situation of needing a government for people who don't want to be governed. And that's basically still the situation today. Europe, on the other hand, had kings and monarchs for millennia, and then saw the emergence of a strong labor movement, which only grew stronger after the First and Second World War. This is why we have such strong labor unions, which prevent a lot of the financial exploitation that's possible in the United States. And these fundamental differences reflect in the way that we deal with business developments. Americans tend to...
See, really quick on that, she was talking about labor unions. I've worked for a union before, and I've also worked privately in construction back when I was just a young man, 18 years old, 17 years old. I was, doing construction work. And the thing about, like, the union was great when I worked for it, guaranteed pay raises, good benefits, healthcare, all of that. Fantastic. But one of the problems that you have with unions is when they become unionized, and the committee that's running all of it, like the head honchos, are then rubbing shoulders with politicians to get specific benefits because they have influence of all of the workers inside of the union. That's where corruption starts to come in. Not saying that private work or union work is better over the other, but essentially I did see a lot of that. Like when I was there, gosh, this had to have been back in 2010. At that time, was I even voting? I don't even know if I was even voting, but like when we would go to the union meetings, they would full blown tell us like, you are voting for Obama this upcoming election, or you're voting this way, we're all voting this way. And they kind of would like put that on the entire group, which I always felt really awkward about. So just kind of had to put that out there.
I think that Europe's overregulated and slow and too risk-averse. They're right. And Europeans tend to think that in the United States, rich people make the poor poorer by burning money and overly risky investments. They're also right. A good way to see how these cultural differences result in economic differences is this graph. It compares labor productivity in the EU with that in the US. You can see that the productivity per capita in the EU has grown far less in the past decades, and I understand that Americans are proud of their achievement. But if you dig into the details, the reason for the discrepancy is that Europeans on average work fewer hours. You can
Yeah.
see this if you normalize this productivity by the number of hours worked. Then the curves look almost identical. What does this
Wow.
mean? I think it means that Europeans don't care a lot about the GPU. At least I don't. If an American comes to me boasting about how high the US GPT is, or how many billionaires are Americans, or how many big companies are owned by Americans, all I can say is, well, and what do you get out of it? Are you happy that you made the rich people even richer? If the answer is yes, that's fine with me, and I respect that. But it's not a system that I would feel comfortable in, and I hope that you can
Sorry to pause it there. I just don't think we're humans. I just don't know if we will ever have a system that is going to be perfect. Like, yes, having a more equal playing field and like having more opportunity for everyone is great and like the ideal way that we would want to have it. And I'm not saying that America doesn't have it or Europe doesn't have it or does, you know, I'm not saying either way. I'm just saying that some people are more motivated to work harder and be more successful. And I think that's where some Americans may get a little more braggadocious, or some of the comments that maybe she has seen where we're talking about like we have more millionaires and billionaires, because it's that fascination or like that drive to know that you can make it in America. And not saying that it can't happen in Europe, but I was just referencing where some of that language is coming from, or some of the things that she was hearing.
respect that too. And that basically is the message of this video. I wish that we all had more respect for how people in other cultures choose to live their lives. Americans aren't stupid because they voted for Trump, and Europeans aren't stupid because they pay high taxes. We just do things differently. I very much admire the American entrepreneurial spirit, their willingness to take risks, and their independence. But I also think it's good that we don't all do things the same way. I follow the news both in Europe and America, and that's become so much easier since I use Ground News. So let me tell you something about them. Ground News is a news platform that collects and summarizes news which has been published all over the world. Not only do they collect all articles on the same story in one place and give you a quick summary, they also give you a lot of extra information that you don't find in the standard media. And it's really saved me so much time. Take, for example, the recent news restoration. You see right away that this news has been much more covered by the political right than by the left.
Oh, I've heard about
which is really curious, isn't it?
Platforms like
you
this.
also get a factuality rating for each news item, and
I know
it
you guys
tells
told me
you
don't
whom
talk
the
over the
media
video,
outlets
but
are
it's
owned
an ad,
by
okay?
and where
I'm
the
gonna talk
news
over
has
the video.
appeared. You can also switch between a focus on US and EU news. Ground News also has most exclusive a special
of the video?
don't you have a look.
I think
Thanks
that's
for
the end.
watching.
All right, my bad. Good video, really good video. I like her a lot. I could watch her talk all day long. Very reasonable, balanced, a good perspective on Americans and Europeans, you know, and that was kind of one of the reasons that like I wanted to start like reacting to like European and Australian and Africa, like anywhere. I just want to react to things all over the world because I do feel like we are in like a tiny little bubble here. We don't get news penetrating into our atmosphere. We don't, you have to go looking to go find any information outside of the US. So appreciate checking out this video and appreciate you guys swinging by the channel. I'll just end it there. All right. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.